Jersey, hosted by Eric Flannery and Tim Smith.
All right, welcome everybody to Worthy of the Jersey. I am Eric Flannery, along with Tim Smith. Today is April 21st, 2020. If you can't tell, we're all in quarantine. We all got our facial hair. I can't grow any, so
I shaved this morning.
yeah, I thought you were growing facial hair there too.
I was for a few days. It doesn't look good.
This is, just so everybody knows, we recorded this podcast a week ago. It was unbelievable. There was great content. There was great conversation. And then Tim blew it all by deleting it or something. Something happened. So we are very fortunate to be able to get some superstar coaches that came back on this the following week. So first, just want to welcome Mike Jones from DeMatha and Sharman White from Pace Academy. Coaches, welcome. How you guys doing? Coach Jones, let's start with you. How you doing?
Oh, great. No complaints. Obviously crazy time for everybody, but trying to find a silver lining and everything, being able to be at home with my family and, just not have the hustle and bustle. I find myself a little bit busier than I normally am, but without the hustle and bustle. I miss my guys. I miss my school community, but there is a good point to this.
Coach White?
Pretty much the same, man. Just trying to make it, getting a chance to do a lot of things with my family, my kids, riding bikes, fishing, different things. But I guess that's the blessing out of this. But it is a different time, and it is, it's getting to a point where it's kind of like wondering, how much longer. But, you try to look on the bright side of stuff and just, keep it moving. And that's pretty much it, man.
There are so many things that we can get into just about this quarantine, obviously. And, Coach White, before we got on here, you were talking about Georgia open up its borders or open up everything pretty much to, last Friday, which is probably one of the first states to do that. How is that? Does that impact the people there in Georgia? Is that something that's going to impact basketball at all going forward?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's funny because it is set to open the gyms and the beauty salons and the barbershops and the massage therapists. They are set to open on Friday, this upcoming Friday, and then the restaurants, the eating restaurants are supposed to open up on next Monday. And I just don't know how that's going to affect it. I mean, with, gyms being open, meaning, workout facilities, you just don't know. I'm not sure how safe it is, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't, probably put myself and my family in those situations right now. Not right now. I think the numbers or the medical data just doesn't support it enough for me and mine. So that's kind of like where it is. But it was kind of like a euphoric state a little bit yesterday around the state. You could tell people were kind of like got a little giddy when that announcement came about because everybody's so like just tired of being cooped in and got cabin fever, crazy. And so it was kind of like a little glimmer, I guess you can say, but it's still, you got to be wise and all that. So that's the approach I would take.
Coach Jones, how was it there in DC? Kind of, you're probably similar to Ohio, though. Pretty shut down right now.
Yeah, just everybody's in the house. I mean, you go to the grocery store, but other than that, we picked up food a couple of times, got to take out a couple of times, but you're required when you walk into grocery store, you're required to have a mask on. There's nothing going on here. I communicate with my school about just the online learning that everybody's going through, but there's not much going on here.
Coach Jones, more importantly, how did your NBA 2K game go?
Oh, man. You probably could tell by the look on my face.
Maybe not. Maybe that was a bad question.
So I think the championship game is actually supposed to be, or championship series deciding game is supposed to be today. I am not in it.
We would have been more worried if you were in it, to be honest.
Yeah. One of my freshmen beat me 2 games to none in the first round. It is what it is. I tried.
Right on.
So you should have picked the '98 Bulls.
Shoot, I would. I think there were rules against that, but you know what? The way I got beat, I could have had like the all-time NBA team. I still might have lost.
This is crazy. You guys, I mean, the things that we do now that we're in quarantine, and don't check my Twitter account for my dancing skills, but because Sharm, you brought that up. But since this officially is really our first podcast together, even though we already did one, so we're going to get into some topics that we probably covered the first time and some new things too. But again, since this is the first time, a lot of people that watch or listen to our podcast know a lot about Tim and I, and I just want you guys to kind of give a quick history of your coaching and kind of, I thought this would be a little bit better just to show how impressive it is to have you guys with us today. Talk a little bit about the years that you've been coaching, where you've been coaching at, and whether and other maybe venues or big games that you've coached before. And for example, like, I've been the head coach at St. Ed's for 23 years. I've already coached the McDonald's All-American Game, the Jordan Classic. I've been with USA Basketball since 2001. Coached the Hoop Summit twice. Got 3 gold medals with USA Basketball, one of them with the two of you, and a few other things locally that we've done. But that really, 2 state championships, but I don't think that compares much to what you guys have done in your career. So just give everybody kind of like a quick synopsis of where you've been. So Coach White, why don't you start, because you got like 35 state titles, I think.
Coach White, I've been coaching. I've coached at the middle school level. I started off at the level, then I went to the high school level. Coached at Miller Grove High School, which was a brand new school when I first got there. And we were able to do some great things there. We won in an 8-year span. We won 7 state championships, 6 in a row at one point. Then I took my, I guess you could say, my coaching talents to Georgia State. Did that for a couple of years. Had a good experience there. Went to the NCAA tournament, won a conference championship there. Then I decided to go back to high school. Just finished up my second year at Pace Academy. We were able to win a state championship this year, giving me 8 total for my career. And then, I've also been fortunate enough to be the head coach of Jordan Brand All-American Game, along with Mike. And I've also coached it as an assistant before as well. And then I've been a part of USA Basketball since 2013, won 2 gold medals, one with U16 back in 2015, and then this past year with you guys. So that's kind of pretty much it. I was supposed to be the Hoop Summit head coach this past April, but COVID-19 said no.
We'll get you back. Coach Jones?
So first of all, Flan, we're gonna count you as 3 state championships because you got
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So
I think I'm the only one other than, like, Coach Jones, you were about to play in the national tournament, correct?
and something like that.
So you're the only one. So my season got cut short right before the Final Four. Coach White was able to finish his and win a state championship. But you won your league and conference. So just get into that a little bit about what your career quickly and how it finished up this year for you.
So I'm a coach at DeMatha Catholic High School in Highfield, Maryland. I played at DeMatha as well. Today is kind of cool because today would have been Coach Morgan Wooten's 89th birthday. So, rest in peace and rest in paradise to him, but also big happy birthday to him. I played for Coach Wooten. My senior year, we were 30-0, only 2 undefeated teams in the school's history. And my senior year was one of them, so I'm very proud of that. I coached under Coach Wooten for 4 years before taking over in fall of 2002. So I've been the head basketball coach at DeMatha for 18 seasons. We just recently were able to play for a state championship, but honestly, in our area, the private school, quote unquote, state championship is not as valued as our conference championship because we comprise 3 states for that. We've now won 41 of those as a school. And I believe everybody else in our league combined is like 19 or something like that. So, and we've won 8 since I've been the head coach. I'm very proud of that. I've also coached, with you guys in many different things, been with USA Basketball since way back in 2004, but pretty much every year consistently since 2010. I've coached the Hoop Summit 5 different times as a head coach and as assistant coach, and won 4 gold medals with USA Basketball. The most recent one this past summer with you guys. So very proud of just my affiliation with my school, but then also the opportunities that I've had to coach outside of DeMatha, but also to always represent my school community.
That's pretty impressive stuff. And I think, we kind of joked about it a little bit before we got on, but I think it is something that, if we do get a good response here, we know there's a lot of coaches around the country that probably look up and respect a lot of what you guys do. And if this is something that we can do more often, maybe on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, I think we would love to get together and talk hoops, because there's so many things. We talked for, I think, an hour and 15 minutes last week, and I know we could very easily do that again this week and go on from there. But Tim, I don't know if there's any questions that maybe you want to start with and then kind of go from there.
Well, what coaches like to talk, and that's one thing I think we found out through this podcast. But a common question we got last week and again this week is, how did you guys get started with USA Basketball? And I think your resumes speak for themselves, but it is interesting to note that it wasn't because of your resumes necessarily that got you started. So, Coach Jones, why don't you start? Just tell us how you got started with USA Basketball, how that came about.
So I'll make sure I answer it correctly this time. So Eric Flannery is the reason why.
Yeah.
There we go.
About time, man. About time.
Yeah, but honestly, back in 2004, I was only in my second year at DeMatha, and I was able to have the great opportunity to coach in the Youth Development Festival, which was held in Colorado Springs. Coach Flannery was actually there, but he was part of the committee to select the coaches. So, and then I must have done a horrible job because I didn't do anything else again until 2010. But in 2010, I was called by Sean Ford and B.J. Johnson at the time as the directors, and asked to join Coach Showalter's staff for the next 2 years, 2011 and 2012. And again, I said it last time we spoke, like I give all that credit to Quinn Cook, who was one of my players who currently plays for the Lakers. He was the point guard on the very first junior national team in 2009 and 2010. And I still, when we talk about it, he always asks how coach is or how the program's doing. I definitely give credit to him because he represented myself and our school very well, to the point where they thought that it would be a good idea to have me join the staff. And I'm sure Flan has something to do with that too. So
I was lobbying to get you out of there. I don't know what happened. Coach White.
Yeah, mine was like I said, I really didn't know how. I can kind of put together what I think happened, which I think I'm almost pretty sure what happened. But for me, it started. Got a chance to speak at some Nike clinics, and me and Coach Showalter was speaking at one in Chicago, and we had dinner a couple times that weekend. And I was just asking, tell me a little bit about USA Basketball, because I did have a player that was on that inaugural team. Tony Parker was on that same team with Quinn Cook. And so I do remember, going through the process of seeing what he was doing as far as, going traveling. And I forgot where they played at out of the country, but I remember them winning the gold medal and watching it online or what have you. So I was inquiring with him about it. He was telling me a little bit more about it from a coaching standpoint. And so we were getting ready to go. The next day, he had to fly out and I had to fly out. And so we were going to the airport at the same time. He asked me for a ride. And so I gave him a ride, and he asked me, he kind of gauged my interest, what it would be like. And I told him it'd be great if the opportunity ever, arose. And so later that summer, we were working the LeBron James Skill Academy, and I can remember sitting at a table with him and Tage Locke. And Tage Locke just flat out, just in the middle of the conversation, told Don, said, "Hey, this is the guy you need right here for USA Basketball." And I can remember that later that fall, I got a call asking me would I be willing to work a mini camp in October. And I said, of course, yes. I can remember when that happened, I was going, working the camp, and I had a great time. I learned a lot. I felt like I was doing more learning than coaching, because I was just watching how the culture was at USA Basketball. And I looked at it as probably one of the best cultures I've ever been around in basketball. And so Later that December, BJ Johnson gave me a call. I remember I was walking down the hall. I was at Miller Grove, and I answered the phone casually. And, he asked me, would I be interested in being a part of the U16 coaching staff? And I can just remember, yelling yes down the hallway, like, just excited. And, the way I looked at it at that time was when I did the mini camp, I think that was my dress rehearsal, trying to see, what was I about, and, what would make me be a viable part of the staff. And so I think, I tell young coaches that because you never know who's watching you. You never know in certain situations. So always handle yourself with a high level of professionalism and do it with a lot of passion and enthusiasm, and because you just never know. And so I think that had a lot to do with it.
What do you guys, and we didn't talk about this last time, but it kind of made me think of it. And we talked a little bit last time about, coaches that might come up to you and say, how do I get involved with USA basketball? But even beyond that, because I know Coach Flannery, and I'm sure you guys get it a lot at your programs, is guys that want to break into coaching, right? That offer to help out, that want to be part of your staffs. And there's not room for everybody. Eric's big problem is he's got family members or people that have been around a long time like myself, and we never leave. So it's hard to get openings when people just don't leave and they keep showing up. But if there's a young guy or somebody that's looking to get into coaching, even at our level, what are some advice that you guys have for those kind of people to just kind of break into to coaching basketball at high school or above? Eric, why don't you start with this one?
Well, you're throwing it at me, and it's hard.
I like to see you think quickly.
Well, I know these other guys are going to have great answers to it as well, but Sharm kind of said it there. And Tim knows this well. One of the things that we're all about at St. Ed's is, and I'm all about when I look at coaches and hire coaches, is simply trust and somebody that is loyal and somebody that works hard. I never necessarily look at anybody's X's and O's and try to, hey, that guy ran a great play, so he must be a great coach. You just got to build those relationships. So if you are a young coach and a young person that's out there that wants to get into coaching or on a staff, you just have to be somewhat persistent. You have to continue to learn, continue to network by showing up at clinics like Coach White said. He's running into people during some of these clinics and events, and simply introduce yourself and get to know them. I don't think I've ever hired a coach that I didn't know first and got to know them at least a little bit personally. And if you ever get an opportunity to go to a clinic, just introduce yourself to coaches, just introduce yourself to people. And, I've got a son that's a senior in college that next year he's going to be a grad assistant at Xavier University, and he wants to get into coaching. But I flat out told him, you broaden your horizons a little bit, go find somebody that you can trust and learn from. And just start making connections and start, just building those relationships. And if you're somebody that's young, you don't necessarily need to be hired right away. You just need to continue to go build those relationships and get to know people and find out how you can help and be a part of the program. As Tim knows too, there are, we have 13 guys on our staff. And again, we got 2 freshman teams and a JV team. But not all of those guys not one of them does the same thing. Some of them are really good at coaching on the court. Some are stat guys. Some are analytic guys. Some guys are great at scouting. So just try to be good at something and bring those tools to a program if that's the program that you want to become involved in. So I'll hand that over to Coach Jones.
Great answer. I think there's 2 things that you have to have. One of them is you have to be in it for the right reasons. I think that is the most important thing. For coaches, like you have to ask yourself, why do you want to be a coach? And if it has anything to do with you and you progressing or I want to use this job to get this job, I want to use this player to get this, then you're not going to be a good coach. Or at some point in time, you're going to fall short because you're not in it for the right reason. So I think that's the most important thing. You've got to be about the kids, and no matter what level, be about the kids, not your resume. That's one thing. And then the other thing is you have to be willing to work. Just like any occupation, you get your foot in the door, you're going to make your presence felt by outworking everybody, and if you're a workout guy, if you're an X and O guy, if you're a scouting guy, if you're a recruiting guy, whatever it is, you know, you've got to really embrace, you know, just the work ethic that it's going to take for you to be a good coach. And, you know, introducing yourself and going to clinics and things like that. Like, you know, if I'm at a coaching clinic and I'm sitting next to somebody, he's not taking any notes and, you know, he's nodding off, falling asleep, or he's on his cell phone texting the whole time. But then that same guy says, hey, how can I be a USA coach? Like, it's like, do you really want to be a USA coach? You know, any young coach, like, you got to work on your craft. So again, those two things, you got to be a hard worker and you got to be in it for the right reasons.
Yeah, I would, I mean, what you guys said is kind of like, you got to kind of be able to sum it up in both ways, because I think you guys hit it right on the nose. I'm looking for good people first. I need to be able to have somebody that's a good person, that's in it for the right reasons, like Mike said, and that's, you know, has a passion and a heart for young people, because you've got to have that in order for them to be productive as a coach, or for them to be even productive as a coach. And I think, again, you know, you have to be willing to work hard. It's a craft that you have to constantly work to get better at. It's also one of those things, as a coach myself, you know, I try to keep guys that like sharpening their blades around me, because if they're, you know, dull blades lose battles. And I want guys that are sharp and that want to be sharp and got aspirations to be the best they can be in this profession. So that's, you know, first and foremost. You can, you know, sell me on all the games you've won or all the things you've been a part of and all these things, but I'm looking a little deeper. I'm pulling that layer. I'm pulling back different layers of this thing to make sure I got the right person.
And I want to jump in on that too, because Coach Jones brought this up, which I thought was really interesting, and I've found it, and I think the three of us have talked about this when we've been at USA stuff too. Is a lot of people think that, you know, because where we're at right now, we just got it right, and all of a sudden we're there. You know, it's like, and we'll get people that have just started coaching or who are young and be like, well, I want to be where you're at. And and I mean, I've been in the business 30 years now, 23 as a head coach. And going back to even Sharm's point, I got lucky. You know, I got lucky that the St. Ed's job opened up when it did. And I just happened to be at the right spot at the right time. The USA thing, I got asked by somebody in 2001 before USA was even really known for what it is today. And at that point, once you get in, you know, you got to work your tail off just to continue to be successful, number one, but you have to continue to build those relationships. You know, I think we're doing something right that we're asked to continue on with USA basketball. So that's the good thing. But it's not just by chance or by being mean to other people. I mean, you know, Sharm, Mike, and I have become great friends through all of this, and we respect each other. And I think Coach White said something really good about the USA experience that we've had. I believe this wholeheartedly. Every time I go out with these coaches, I do more learning than coaching every single time. I mean, we sit down in meetings and talk to each other, and we bring in new coaches and different people. And none of us look at a new guy and say like, hey, you know, this is how we do it, back off. We sit down and we listen to new ideas and how they do drills and new philosophies and things like that. So you always got to learn, you got to adapt, you got to continue to grow with the game. And I've had people and I've had coaches that have come to me and been like, well, I do things this way and this is the way I do it. And they're really hard-headed and they have a belief. You got to be open to change, and you got to be open to improving your craft and understand that. I think one of the coaches, I'm sure I'm going to screw it up, but it's something about, you know, we've been, you know, coaching for so long that we've learned more now about what we don't know than what we actually do know. And there's so much out there that we don't know, even through all the experiences that we've had, that we just continue to listen and grow from other people. So I think that's great advice from you guys. Coach Smith, we got something else?
Well, I think because a lot of the response we got was from USA Basketball and the work that you guys do together. And I like the way I asked this question, and I like the way you guys answered it last week. So why not? Let's do it again. And Coach Jones, you know, being the head guy with this group, and maybe that's one thing too. You give an update on what's going on with the U17 World Championships that were supposed to happen this summer and what's going on with that. And then from there, talk about how, I think the way I posed it was, day one, when you guys are bringing in kids to USA Basketball and you're talking, the best in their age group across the country, how do you guys approach, what's the day one message to those guys? How do you guys approach team building, with a group of kids that don't know each other, but are all really highly regarded, highly accomplished players, even at a young age that they are?
So, first of all, the update. So we were supposed to be, meeting for training camp in mid-June out of Colorado Springs, where we were going to bring in, around 30 players. We were going to select 12 from that group. We would have flown to Mallorca for a pre-tournament with some of the other best teams in the world at the U17 level, and then travel from Mallorca to Sofia, Bulgaria for the World Championships at the U17 level. So that was our plan. Obviously everything's on hold. The last update hasn't changed in the last week, was that, things would be moved to August and would be in Romania if everything clears up in time. And obviously that's still up in the air. So we're crossing our fingers because I don't know if we spoke about this last week, but and we have no idea. I don't know the answer to this question, but you've got guys that, they're 17 years old. A year from now, they won't be 17 anymore. So, to just postpone the U17s for a year like they can do with the Olympics, like that's not really a possibility as far as I know. So, some of these guys, this may be, their one shot at playing for a world championship, and they may lose out on that. So, we're all crossing our fingers that doesn't happen and that we all can play, but obviously the world's health is the most important thing. We did talk last time about the difference and what we're looking for. And as I explained, you've got two different settings with USA Basketball. You have the mini camp setting and you have the training camp setting. The mini camp setting is more so for people to come in, for kids to come in, and we are really just trying to help them improve as players. Obviously, we're getting eyes on them. We're, kind of helping with their development along the way, but, we're really pouring into them to help them be the best player they can be. The training camp setting, while we're still trying to do that same exact thing, the mission of that is to pick a team. So the training camp setting is a little bit different. And a lot of times, you hear, well, you didn't pick this kid and he was ranked number 1 or number 2 or whatever. And people have to understand it's not about picking the 12 best players. It's about picking the 12 players that make the best team. And, I'll let one of you guys tell the Taman Lipsey story, but like that is absolutely, like, we have to win. Like, we have to get a gold medal. And so we take that part very seriously and we watch everything. Your character, all of that stuff means something because, we're going to be time zones away from home. We're going to be in another country. We're going to be in another country for a long period of time. And, we represent more than just ourselves. We represent our entire country. And to be able to do that with pride, we have to make sure we pick the 12 guys that are going to help us do that and be successful doing so.
Coach White, why don't you jump in on that?
I'll tag team Taman Lipsey with you because I think, we both kind of felt the same way about him during training camp. We used to, talk after practice and be like, man, that Taman Lipsey kid he's a problem because he was always making plays and doing things. And that was a kid that wasn't highly regarded from the standpoint of, where the other guys were, some of the guys that were in training camp that were quote unquote 4 or 5-star guys, what have you. This kid was just a hard worker. That was everything that USA Basketball is about. You talk about the DNA that makes up a USA Basketball player, and he profile, to his fullest. And so, we, kind of petitioned every step of the way because we couldn't, like I think we mentioned it last week, we couldn't cut him. Every time when the cut came up, it was just almost impossible because of what the things he had done prior to. And so he ended up making the team and ended up starting for us a few games in the tournament and did a great job. Had a game where I think he took like 4 or 5 charges. but it's that kind of player that succeeds in the USA basketball program, and that makes USA basketball successful. I think the other thing that, I want to hit on with it is the way we can, kind of narrow down to the guys we get. When we open up training camp, we have, anywhere from 12, 13 coaches. So that's, 26 to 30 eyes watching every player, watching every move, watching everything they do, their reactions after being, quote unquote coached, or, and so we're all in a room and we're talking about these different things after each practice, not, at the end of the week. We're talking about them after each practice. So we're getting immediate feedback to each other about each player and things we might have noticed while we were coaching them, while we were doing things with them, from afar. And I think, with that being said, and the kind of coaches that we have that are part of USA basketball, I think Samson and Sean and Dunn, they do a great job of selecting coaches that have the things that can, be able to give critical but yet accurate evaluations of kids is second to none. So, again, I think that has a great way of us being able to model what we need to model as far as trying to get the down to the size of the group we need.
Let me jump in too, because you guys have said some really good things, but I think really, maybe even getting back to philosophy and putting a team together originally, we have some great leadership at USA Basketball, and you got a guy like Don Showalter, who's been a mentor to all three of us, who's been around the game in USA Basketball for well over 20 years. Now you got Samson Coyote, who's in there, who's kind of running the show. And it starts with organization. I think, we have conference calls and meetings, and they send out playbooks, and they send out, drills, and where, Coach Jones has been awesome as being our leader and our head coach of just being organized and making sure he's communicating with everybody what their role is and what we're supposed to do. So we show up to camp, ready to go, like, hey, Coach Flan, you're in charge of the guards. Coach White, you're in charge of the big guys. Let's break it down here. Coach White put in some out of bounds plays. Flan put in a couple own sets, whatever it may be. And then Coach Jones is going to take care of, most everything else. And we constantly communicate with each other about what's good, what's bad. So it's not just about the players. It's about the philosophy that we have as a team and as a program. And USA Basketball has done a great job, especially within the last, I would say, 8 to 10 years when we started playing for world championships, of being a lot more universal or a lot more, direct in how we want to play. So going back to what Coach Jones said, when we bring guys in for a mini camp, we're working on their skill set a little bit, but we're putting in our system, and we're working on that for a couple of days. So when they come back, we can review that and talk about those things. So it's a constant building of what it is we want, just like any coach out there would do with their program. But if you are organized, if you're prepared and you put that time into it first, I think that helps else. And, getting back to the talent standpoint, I think the biggest misconception about USA Basketball is we just take great players. I mean, and both coaches have hit on this. We want guys that can sacrifice for each other, that are unselfish, obviously talented, because that's what gets you there. But when it comes to the team, and I just want to reiterate what Coach Jones said, we're going halfway around the world with you. We don't care how talented you are. If you're going to be a pain in the butt, if you're going to be somebody that we constantly have to worry about their attitude or their effort, you're not going to come, because we have other guys that can play. So it's a pretty impressive way of which, we go about it. And once again, I'm just always at all like looking and learning from a guy like Mike Jones or a guy like Sharman White, and just picking up how they relate with the kids and how they build a program. And it's pretty impressive stuff.
Do you guys see, because one thing that USA Basketball did in the last couple of years was release a set of guidelines or standards for how youth basketball, organized youth basketball should be played, right? I think everything from the size of the ball to how high the hoop is to when the three-point shot should be introduced. You guys as sort of longtime coaches and then being involved with the program and being a part of the evolution of USA Basketball at the lower levels, do you guys see, and do you maybe feel a responsibility of the relationship between, USA Basketball, I don't know, the entity or the brand or whatever, and how that can impact, you know, youth basketball and high school basketball across the country? Do you feel, you know, a symbiosis there? And do you think that's something that can continue to improve? Or is or is USA basketball kind of, I guess, not that powerful, maybe would be the way to put it?
Well, no, I think it is. I think, and you can definitely see the impact that it's having. Just with the whole licensing thing, you know, we've taken on a model that, you know, one of the things that was not started here. So you have all these other countries where, in order to coach, you have to actually qualify to be a coach. You have to be certified. You have to prove your proficiency in being able to coach young people. And our country has kind of taken that on now. So in order for guys to be able to coach in the summer and things like that, like, they have to have a license, and that is all through the USA basketball program. So I definitely can see a change. It's only been in effect for the last couple of years, but you can definitely see the game being taught better. And as long as we are committed to that, like, you'll see the game is going to improve. Like, you'll get guys that are better earlier. You'll get guys that are better younger. You'll get guys that their IQs are better because they've been taught from a young age, and bad habits and things like that won't be as prevalent. I think it's great for the game.
Coach White?
I love what USA basketball is doing with basketball in general. I mean, when you as a coach, you know, you can't regulate certain things as far as, you know, when you talk about kids playing zone, they're, you know, 7 or 8 years old, but USA has took the bold step to say, you know, kids shouldn't be playing zone that early. They should be learning how to play man-to-man. I think those type of things, and then, you know, partnering with the NBA and trying to make that process a little bit, you know, smoother, and trying to make it, you know, more where, you know, kids are getting more than just basketball when they come to USA mini camps or training camps. They're getting life lessons, life skills. And I think that type of approach, you know, even now I'm looking at some of the advertisements they're putting out as far as, you know, how to fight COVID-19 and how to stay active and how to stay, you know, ready and things of that nature. I think USA basketball has, you know, they have it figured out as far as how to, you know, be a part of this basketball community, and not just be a part of it, but be a viable force in it. And so things like that is just, you know, what makes it that much more be an honor to be a part of it, you know, because they're on the edge of just trying to make sure this game is, you know, is well cared for and, you know, taken care of.
And again, just to jump on that too, I mean, in 2001, back when I first started, USA basketball was literally 3-4 guys in a warehouse. And we met out there, and all the, you know, we were staying at random hotels, and you know, just to see where it's gone from there to now is incredible. And who else does anybody look to when they're looking for advice about maybe coaching, about certifications, about whatever? And USA basketball has done a tremendous job of kind of grabbing the bull by the horns with all of this and bringing it all together. You know, if I'm a high school coach, if I'm a CYO or grade school coach, if I'm a AAU coach, if I'm looking for tools to try to get better as a coach, USA basketball now has clinics all over the country. They have great speakers like Coach Jones and Coach White. They have online video tutorials. They have, you know, things to become certified as a coach. They're taking the education part of it as well as the rules part of it, and just trying to educate as many coaches as they can out there. And I think Coach White and Coach Jones would probably agree with me too, that we're kind of at the point of our careers, and I've said this a few times, where I probably get more joy out of helping other coaches than I ever have in my career. Like I love when a young coach, you know, sends me an email or gives me a call and says, "Hey coach, can we sit down and talk?" You know, I never used to kind of, you know, do that a whole lot or get, and now that I get those requests, I love doing it. And I think it's our job, and we kind of feel, you know, with Coach Showalter did such a great job with that, with Snow Valley camps and with USA basketball. And he continues to kind of forefront this stuff because he travels all over the world speaking at clinics, and he helps write the curriculum for a lot of these USA, you know, clinics and classes that are online. But I think the coaches right here that we have feel an obligation to do the same. Like, we want to continue to improve our game constantly. and try to, help younger coaches. And not that we feel like we're better than anybody else, but to simply pass on the information that we've learned from the guys before us and the guys that we work with on when we show up at USA Basketball, and to pass this information on is priceless. And so I think getting together like we are right now, I mean, my head's swelling with questions for these guys. Like, hey, I just want to get into so many topics, but time is limited. But
Till
I
next
think
week anyway.
Yeah, but we actually brought this up, and I think Tim and I were going to talk about this a little bit too. But last Wednesday we were very fortunate to have a conference call or a Zoom call with Jeff Van Gundy, who everybody in the basketball world knows as far as the NBA, and got to ask him a lot of questions. And tomorrow we're going to get on another call with General Dempsey, who's the chairman of USA Basketball and has an unbelievable resume, especially in leadership, whether it's with the military or other organizations. So we get these opportunities, and I like to, all I could think about when I was going to get back on with the two coaches here was kind of get their thoughts on some of the things that Coach Van Gundy had said. And since Tim, you brought up a little bit of rules and stuff, let's jump into the shot clock just for a minute here, because Coach Van Gundy, and I don't know if I wrote it down, but he did say something about the shot clock because they asked him, like, what does he feel about the shot clock in the younger levels? And I think his comment was a chemistry class without a lab is what he felt with the shot clock. And he said, the more chances we can make the game alike, like similar, the better success we are going to have in developing players. And what he meant by that was, why do we not make, why doesn't everybody play with the shot clock? Because that's the way the game is played around the world. I mean, we use it for USA Basketball. There are some states now that use it here in the United States, but only a few. But college uses it, NBA uses it, and everywhere around the world uses it. And I mentioned this in our last podcast that we had, Zydrunas Ilgauskas came on our podcast about a year ago, and he was just flabbergasted by the fact that high school basketball did not have a shot clock. He said it was like watching a totally different game than the rest of the world plays. He said, this is ridiculous. So that's one of those rules that, can this build some continuity with basketball throughout our world and make us, as coaches, develop our players a little bit better. So I just want to kind of get your opinions. We talked about this last time, and I know here in Ohio, we don't have a shot clock. We're a little bit more old school kind of football. A lot of coaches in Ohio, even to this day, are still against it for whatever reasons. They try to claim that it, keeps the, weaker team in the game more, or gives them more options, which we can talk about. And it also, and we threw this out last time too, guys, that we can throw out the argument that it prepares guys for the next level, because we all understand that only about 3% of guys play at the next level. So even though that is a good reason to have a shot clock, that's one of the positives that's nowhere near on our radar for why we should have it. But let's throw it to you, Coach Jones. Shot clock. You guys, I think you said you have it in certain tournaments, but what's your opinion?
We have it all the time.
Okay.
We've gotten to the point where we, for the most part, we won't go to a tournament unless they play with a shot clock, unless there's some other compelling reason why. It is just, we feel like it does us no good if we know that, to win the championship, we're going to have to play with a shot clock. Why have any other opportunity for us to prepare to not play with one? So, but just overall, it just honestly, I've coached games without a shot clock, and I've coached games with a shot clock, and talent out the window, the game is just a better game. It's a more flowing game. It forget the whole, it gives a less talented team a better chance. Like, show me a stat that proves that. Like, I do not believe that. I do believe what it does is it changes everything. It makes you think more. It makes you prepare more. It makes you have to be like on the same page. Like, for your point guards, it forces them to know what a 2-for-1 situation is. What should you do here? It just forces so many different things. And in close games, a shot clock is just invaluable. Like, it causes for every possession in the last 2 minutes of a 5-point game. Like, many times that's a win for the team that's up 5. Not with the shot clock. Like, just everything changes. You don't have to foul. Like, there's just, it brings so much, just so much more to the game, so much more strategy. I don't understand why this isn't an easy concept for people to grasp.
Were there any issues around implementation around you, Coach Jones, like getting people to run the shot clock, getting the equipment into the gyms, you know, anything like that? I mean, sometimes that comes up.
No.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I think you're going to have – people need to know what they're doing. Like, you can't just hit reset every time a shot goes up. You got to make sure the ball hits the rim. You got to make sure you reset, when the possession changes hands, and the shot didn't get taken, like things like that. But, I mean, I hate to make it seem so elementary, but that's simple when it comes to somebody that wants to do it. If you have to teach people how to do the book. Like, you can't just hand the book to somebody and a pencil and say, hey, do the book for me. You got to teach them what to do. The shot clock is no different than that. So,
Coach Jones, I think what Tim was mentioning too was one of the biggest arguments we hear all the time, especially here in Ohio, is money. Like, it's going to cost so much money, and some schools don't have it. And my personal belief is this, and I think this is similar to what you're talking about, is if they put it in the state tournament, like, hey, you're going to play with the shot clock in the state tournament in, let's say, 2 years. Everybody will adapt at some point in the next 2 years. And even if they can't get it in their own gym, have somebody with a stopwatch just to kind of get you adapted to it.
I don't believe that to be true. Like, this country has proven it can find money for anything. So, like,
especially sports. There we go.
That's one. And then two, like, we've had high school kids that are trying to make money in the summer. We have one of the biggest summer leagues in our area. Like, we've had a kid do the shot clock, the game clock, and the book all by himself because whoever was supposed to show up to help him work didn't do it or didn't show up. So it's not that complicated. It really isn't.
I'm glad you said that, because I've always thought, I don't think you need to add another person to the scorer's table to operate a shot clock. And that's something that does, like, occasionally come up on the negative side of things, is, well, you'd have to have another scoreboard operator and they'd have to be at the table. Like,
I'll put it to you like this.
Yeah.
You have the console sitting there, and most of the consoles are the same, Nevco, whatever,
right,
ProStat, whatever it is. You're sitting there. You have two clickers, one for the shot clock, one for the game clock. But if the same person is doing it, what you do is you only use the clicker for the shot clock and you use the start and stop button on it for the game clock. It helps your brain. Game clock, I'm using my finger. Shot clock, I'm using my thumb. Like, simple as that. I've had to do it when guys have shown up late. Like, it is, and I'm not the smartest guy in every room. Like, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Listen, if there hasn't been a better example of representation for why we should have the shot clock, that's the advertisement right there. Is Coach Jones pressing buttons and he's
that was worth losing last week's episode alone right there.
Coach White, give us your perspective on the shot clock.
Well, the funny thing is, we have it up for vote coming up in our next meeting, our next state association meeting. And we've this past year, we got it approved to be able to play at special tournaments. And so we were able to use it at different events, like the Hawks Naismith event, some other tournaments that headliner tournaments in our state for this past year. And so we rolled out a plan, a group of coaches worked together on it, but where we're doing it in a 3-year phase in, so like this year was the year that we do the, tournaments, special tournaments. You can do it. You can use it as a special tournament. You had to be approved or what have you. Then next year we're, looking at doing it in the region games along with the state championship game. And then the final year, everybody has to have it, so kind of get people prepared for it financially. And, if you want to say financially, because we've even partnered with the Hawks, and they've kind of said in so many words that they would sponsor every shot clock in the state, as long as they can put the Hawks logo on it, which, of course, we wouldn't have any problems with it. I think the NBA is starting to get involved with it. I've been on a couple conference calls with guys that are for it in the NBA, and they want to see what they can do to help make this a possibility. So I've had great success with the shot clock. That's what made me like, I was in a tournament out in California, Max Preps tournament, and we were down by 8 with like 2 minutes left. And like Mike said, normally in a situation like that, teams are going to hold the ball, you're going to have to foul, all that stuff. But we were able to come back and actually win that game because we had more possessions and we were able to get, take the lead and, win the game. And from that point on, I was sold on the shot clock because, like Mike said, it does make you, as a coach, it makes you work a little bit differently, a little bit more, with a little bit more purpose and a little bit more ways of trying to make sure you're figuring out how to win games. And then as a player, it helps their IQ and how to understand the game. Because once they leave high school, they'll be playing on a shot clock the rest of their life, no matter what level they play at. If they play college, if they play, professionally, they're going to play with a shot clock. So, and then, like, again, it's not for those kids that's just going to play in college level. It's just the aspect of, preparation and the way the game is played. It's such a better pace to it with a shot clock. So I've always been a shot. I host a shot clock league, summer league at our school. I did it at Miller Grove. I did it at Pace this past summer. And I was planning on it doing this summer as well. But it gives teams a chance to play with it. And I invite the association out to watch those games. The high school association members, so they kind of see how the flow goes with them. And they never come, but the point is. And we're kind of a football state too, kind of SEC. Yeah, we're a football state. But, so we kind of catch it a little bit on that end too, but it's all good, man. We're trying to work to make it happen, and we hope that we get a good vote coming up at this meeting, and maybe we'll have it.
Other thing I want to add to this is, like, it is the way most things work, so I get it, but the people that vote on these things aren't the people that are playing or participating. Like, I will never understand that. Like, if you ask the players, like, by far, the majority want a shot clock. If you ask the coaches, by far, the coaches want a shot clock. But these aren't the people that are voting on it. It's people that are administrators or people that don't even show up to their schools or their districts or their school communities games. This is the way it always was. Like, and that's not fair. Life changes, things progress, things evolve. Like, our thinking needs to do the same thing. It's unbelievable that you can have people that say this won't work and these are all the reasons why, but you don't even go to watch a basketball game.
Right. Yeah, this is gonna be our next podcast when we get together. We'll try to invite some Ohio coaches, because, like, in Ohio, we can't even play in a tournament out of state anymore if they have a shot clock. Like, you're not allowed to even go play. That, like, they're so anti. And to your point, Mike, it's usually principals or administrators that are voting on some of these things, and not just the coaches. And I just think it should be every coach should try it, because to Sharm's point too. We had the same experience a few years ago where we played in the shot clock and we were down 7 or 8 with about 2 minutes to go and came back and won the game. And we weren't the better team either, but we just kept, grinding it out and doing what we typically do. It's just, and here's my last thought on it. At some point, even here in Ohio, we're going to get the shot clock. At some point we will, right? It's going to be 5 years, 10 years, or 30 years, but we're going to get it. Why? I want to coach when we have it, right? So why let's just do it and let's get it on.
It's the evolution of the game.
Correct.
Like, just like, a few years ago, you didn't have to have a gold license to be able to coach in the summer. Now you do. Like, it's going to be something that is going to be required to have it. And to speak to your point, Flan, like, I think I have the best principal in the country. Like, he is amazing. He is one of the smartest people, if not the smartest person I've ever met in my life. But he also comes to me when there's a basketball decision to be made. He's not always going to do what I want to do, but he at least takes my input in it. And I would just implore all of these administrators and principals, like, talk to your players and your coach. Like, find out what they want. Don't have this iron fist where you just decide this is what's best when it doesn't necessarily affect you.
I think one of the best points you guys made too is ask the players. Ask the players what they want, because isn't this supposed to be about the kids and having fun and enjoying what they're doing? Yet we have coaches that want to dictate and control the game by holding the ball, or, you know, I just look at practice too. Like we try to make kids get in the stands for 3.5 minutes, like, cause here in Ohio, they might have to be in the stands for 3.5 minutes, you know, like, come on, it's just not basketball anymore.
That's always my starting point. What's most fun for the players?
Yeah.
And then the second part is, I just lost it, but it's the only sport where you're not requiring the offense to try to, you know, advance play or advance the ball, right?
Right.
In baseball, a pitcher has to pitch. A pitcher can't stand on the mound just holding the ball. In football, you have to try to get a first down, or if you don't, in 4 downs, the other team gets the ball. It's the only sport, the only level where we're like, you can just hold the ball. And, you know, they say, well, the team should play defense or whatever. Like, yeah, that's fine, but that gets against sort of the you know, the original intent of the game. So
it's crazy. Well, we're about an hour in, Tim. We're close to it, and I know Coach White's got a meeting coming up here. So, do we have any final questions that we want to kind of sneak in?
I want to shout out Coach Billingsley from Whitmer, who listens a lot. So why don't back to USA basketball? You guys sort of talked about your trips last time or whatever, but you know what he asked about is, what do you take from other countries, or what's a trait or another country that you know is going to give you a hard time, or something that really stands out. And to piggyback off that too, if you guys want to talk about maybe what your favorite USA basketball memory or game or win was, since the only losses you guys have are Hoop Summit games anyway, and we're not going to count those. So, so maybe if you guys got a favorite win and also a country that really, you know, gives you a hard time, and what makes them stand out. So, Coach White, why don't you start this one?
I'll start with the team that, you know, I guess their style of play is sometimes it can be challenging for us as a group to go against. It's Argentina to me, because the physicality that they play the game with. Most countries don't play with the same type of physicality that they do. They guard you 94 feet. They're in you. They do some of the things that we actually like to do to teams to force the tempo and play the way we want to play. And they do a good job. And they also do a pretty good job of executing their sets. But, you know, their screens are going to be legit. You know, their defending is going to be legit, and you have to kind of, you know, make sure that you can deal with that in order to deal with them, because again, they've been periodic. They've been tough for us in each of the times we've had a chance to play against them. Best memories got to be the 2 gold medal wins, man. It's nothing like it. You know, the culmination, because you can take it all the way back to the training camps and selecting teams, and, you know, coming together and having, you know, like Eric said earlier, those trips are not, you know, we're not sitting in the lap of luxury on a lot of those trips. You know, they're tough. You know, you got to adapt to eating stuff that you haven't ate before, especially, you know, a guy like me. I'm a very picky eater. And so you got to figure out, because you got to survive, you got to eat something. So, but bringing it all together, thinking about all the challenges, and not only that, but just the good times, getting to know different kids and coaches and learning. And then you have that gold medal ceremony where they're playing the Star Spangled Banner and they're putting that gold medal around your neck. You know, I'm not in the military or anything, but I do feel like this is my way of serving my country from the sidelines. And so there's nothing like it. So those have been just the greatest for me.
Coach Jones?
Yeah, don't. I'm not trying to set the mood in here, but it's pouring raining outside. That's why
Nice.
it got so much darker. I don't know.
We got that last night, I think.
It's snowing here, so don't worry about it. It is.
I'm trying to set the mood.
But no, I think the country that I have probably, like all of the countries, like I think the thing that impresses me the most is just the pride that they have in their country. It's amazing, and to really, for us to not be so arrogant to believe that just everything is going to happen for us because we're the USA or because we're Americans. Like, to understand that there's, you know, people all over this world that work as hard as we do, that, you know, fight and are as competitive as we do. So I've always just been impressed by the pride that all the countries show. But the one country that has just been the toughest in my 4 trips in the USA basketball settings outside of the country has been Turkey. We played them in our very first game back in 2016, and then played them in the gold medal game that same year. And they're so tough. They play so hard. They play with so much passion and energy, and they're really good. They have really good players. And then one country that I would like to add to that is Australia. We were fortunate enough back in 2012 to play them 3 different times in our USA quest. We played them in the championship of our pre-tournament. We played them in pool play, and then we played them also in the gold medal game. And that team had Ben Simmons. That team had Dante Exum. That team had a lot of really good shooters. That a lot of them came over here to play collegiately in the NCAA. It was unbelievable to watch their ball movement, to watch their offense that, traditionally would look like a Princeton offense, but it moves so fast. And again, they just played at a speed that I don't think many people were used to seeing. And they were, very worthy opponents of us. And it was just great to watch them play. And then like Sean, I do not know of a better feeling as a coach. You win championships, you win gold medals, but that moment when you get to put your hand over your heart, look up and watch the flag as they play the national anthem. Like, I don't really care, what you experienced as an athlete or as a coach. I can't imagine there's a better feeling than that.
Man, so you guys have kind of hit the nail on the head with, the only team I want to add, just from a talent standpoint, I think tries to compete with us, and we've talked about this before, is Canada, because they have a lot of great players, and we mentioned this in the last podcast, which nobody's going to hear, but once, if they ever, that's the one kind of country that if they ever get over that hump of confidence of beating us in some type of competition, they're definitely a country to watch out for. And as far as style of play, Sharm's right. I mean, Argentina is known for their toughness. You go to the World Games, Serbia is very similar to that, where they're just tough. Even Coach Van Gundy had mentioned, so if you're a coach watching this for the first time, similar to what Mike Jones just said, watch Australia's offense, watch New Zealand's offense, and you're going to learn a ton if you just want to break down film and pick some things up from an X and O standpoint. Those teams are kind of known for those things. So as far as memories go, there's so many. You guys, the coaches here know I'm kind of a ball buster, so I don't know how they ever kind of put up with me for weeks on end. Because I have a lot of stories from Showalter's days of being in Dubai and losing my passport to getting sick on a safari ride to Coach Jones and White and I had the pleasure of going to Belém, Brazil, which I mentioned this last time, but I think it's worth mentioning it again. As we're flying into Brazil, and everybody thinks these are great trips. One of the coaches showed me a magazine that Belém, Brazil was one of the 10 most dangerous cities in the world.
I looked it up. It was number 8.
It was 8. See, so I'm not lying here. And we had armed security, armed guards around us wherever we went. The hotel, I tell Lori, my wife, when we're watching some of these home shows from around the world, and you see there's no carpet, there's no it's all cold, cement rooms that are about 8 by 8. That we had cable that did not speak English, so you couldn't watch anything. To Coach White, I think we had rice every dinner because that's all we could kind of fathom eating. We weren't sure about the fruits and stuff like that. There are so many stories every day, and it does come back to the relationships that we build. To be able to hang out with the players that we hang out, knowing that they are some of the best in the world, but getting to know them personally, to get to know these coaches and to share stories is just awesome. And to reiterate what those two said, we don't cry much as coaches and adults, but when you get to put that hand on your chest and they raise that flag, that's something that not too many people get a chance to experience, and we've experienced that. And I just want to finish it up by saying that Coach White broke my finger in the gold medal game last year from an awkward high five after we knew we were winning the game. we turned and high-fived, and I was in pain for about 3 hours after that. So all good times, all great memories. And I mean this
I
when I say,
apologize again,
no,
man.
you didn't do anything. It's
Hey,
my fragile hands.
Sean, don't forget what he did when he was trying to help you with your golf swing, man. So, hey,
Oh,
he almost broke your wrist. So, hey,
yeah, right.
I don't know what's going on here, but
Right.
I would have taken about 6 strokes off his handicap if he would just stuck with it. But man,
Yeah, with a cast on my wrist, like
we'll get back to that. Yeah, I mean this sincerely though, guys. If we could do this more often, we'd love to. I think if we get some coaches on here, I like I said before, I probably have about 10 more topics that we can jump into and talk about. I know this is hard. You guys are getting requested to speak at a lot of these things, but just getting together with you guys, I know, it always makes me feel a little bit better about the day and what's going on. So Tim and I appreciate the fact that you guys, took the time for a second hour to come back with us. And we know we're going to keep in touch. But Tim, any final things as we're about to wrap up here?
No, do we want to wrap up the same way we did last time, or save it for another day?
Let's just do a quick one real quick. Netflix, since we're in quarantine, give us your Netflix. Let's say your top 2 or 3 shows you're watching. Coach White, what are they?
I'm not a watcher like
Right,
that.
that's right.
I did watch Dave Chappelle, a lot of his concerts on Netflix. They were really, really good. But I've been into like the Instagram live stuff with like Teddy Riley and Babyface and all that stuff. That's been hilarious for me. It's been great. And the music, D-Nice. So that's what I've been doing. I'm more of a music guy.
Coach Jones.
yeah, so my wife and I got a free concert last night with the Babyface and Teddy Riley thing. But Ozarks is the show that, I finished it now, but that was the one that had my attention. And Queen of the South, we're working through right now. And for anybody that doesn't have Netflix and you just want to watch Showtime, Homeland is the final season of Homeland, and I believe it's only one more episode left. The season or series finale next week. Next week, next Sunday. Good choice.
I'm going to have to get on that because I keep seeing that. That's the only cable show I have is Showtime, and I haven't watched it yet.
Flan,
yeah.
we got to do one on the Last Dance.
No, that was going to be my next question, but I can't ask that question because that's another podcast.
It's another hour at least.
And the Last Dance is the debate about who's the greatest. First of all, it's awesome. Like just the 2 episodes, we can all agree we want to watch all 10 right now. It's awesome. But Sharm, I think that's that's the next podcast. We're going to get into that. Tim, you got any?
I'm almost done with Tiger King. I got like 1 or 2 left, but I'm hanging on barely. But we're watching Billions on Showtime, so that gets onto your Showtime. We're trying to catch up with that. And then the Jordan stuff got me to tell our listeners, so YouTube is great for old NBA games and stuff like that. So I've started watching some of the old late 80s, early 90s, like, Chicago Bulls, Cavs, Bulls, Lakers, which are fun if you can kind of get through the standard def, and it's hard to watch in non-HD. But it's also incredible to see how much different the game is today than it was even then. And we're all nostalgic about those teams and those games, and they were great. They were extremely intense, and a lot of those things, especially. But like, the Cavs have like Mark Price and Craig Elo, and they're running offenses with 5 guys all within 18 feet of the basket. And I'm watching this like, what the hell are you doing? And the Bulls, the same thing. The triangle is all predicated on getting like 5 guys underneath the free throw line. And it's just stuff like none of us would ever in our right mind do these days. And so it's kind of interesting just to watch the intensity of those games and the old NBA and NBC and the nostalgia, but they were so good at the TV and the presentation, all that stuff. And then beyond that too, just how much different the game is, today versus what it was during that era, which is, early 90s is still probably the golden age of the NBA. Even with how good it's been recently. So I get down the YouTube rabbit holes and watching some of those old games, and it's fun to do, I guess. What else am I going to do?
One thing I like watching. I just caught them last week, man. But they are so good to watch as a coach. And the sights and sounds of the playoffs, like they go through the whole, like every series they show. Man, that is so. That's probably my little drug right now.
Yeah.
Like just listening, and hearing, like, because you go back to 2012, 2000, all those different years, and just to hear the sights and sounds of them, and without no kind of, nobody's talking. It's just the people, the actual live talking of the people involved, and not, one narrating in it so much. But it was great. It's great.
Hey,
Go ahead.
if you guys want something, they don't necessarily put every player in the best light, but if you've never watched, go on YouTube and go to Bleacher Report's Game of Zones.
Those are awesome.
Yep. Like they are all the little inside jokes and stuff like that throughout the NBA. They do a pretty clever job of doing it. Now, I don't appreciate the way they represented a couple of guys that I'm close to, but overall, it's pretty fun.
That is fun. You guys got me on that back in Brazil, I think. I never heard of it, and you guys were watching some of those. So, again, we could probably be on here for another 45 minutes throwing out some stuff. How sick Tim is. Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
One more thing.
Yep.
So this Thursday, my man Chase Young, DeMatha High School graduate, played for his junior year. Just want to, if he ever watches this, shout out to Chase or listens to this. Shout out to Chase, who's going to get picked somewhere in the top 3 picks. Hopefully it's number 2 to my Redskins, and we'll be on our way to the Super Bowl.
You're hoping for an endorsement, aren't you? You got something in the top 3.
Hey, man, I just want the Redskins to get to the Super Bowl. Chase Young helps them get there.
This is the Browns Super Bowl, draft weekend. Draft weekend is the only thing we ever look for.
Go ahead and trade for Trent Williams and give us a pick or something like that. Please just get that done.
Don't get into Tim. Tim does his own drafts. Like Tim has probably done some mock drafts by himself. That's how sick he is. So he'll probably tell you exactly how it's going to go. But so if you want to know who's, Sharm's a big Atlanta fan and Mike a big Redskins fan. But
we're still partying, man. It's my Thursday excuse for April to get out of the house and go out. And now we got to just do it over Zoom or whatever. So I'm gonna go to the basement and get out of the house that way.
Wow.
Well, once again, guys, we're going to do this again. So whether you like to or not, we're going to get together, whether it's a week or
Unless
two.
I lose this recording too, and then I'm going in hiding. And it was nice.
Tim, all right, Tim.
If I send you a bad text later, that means we're never doing this again. But Mike, Sharm, thanks for joining us today. Stay safe, stay healthy. Go USA. I'll see both of you tomorrow on our next Zoom call with USA Basketball. And Tim, thanks for putting this all together.
Thanks.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for doing it.
All right.
Great job, guys.
All right, cool.
Oh. All right.